Hello everyone, and welcome back to another one of my guides. Today's guide is going to be about what to do when you hit level 70, and the path I take from fresh 70s in all greens and advancing into doing a lot of quests, and then off into dungeons and reps and things like that. At the end of the video, I'll be giving a map on which dungeons I run in an order, but these are all susceptible to change, and you can do whatever you want. This is for players that are going to be in full greens when they hit 70 if they don't have any WoW Classic gear. But of course, if you have WoW Classic gear from Nax 40 or any of the raids, there are some things in this you can skip and just look over. And this isn't necessarily a best in slot pre-raid list. This is more of what's the bare minimum can you do in order to get to, whether it's Prot Pally farming or if it is, tanking normals, getting ready to go into heroics, depending on the difficulty of them. This is just a really good guide that'll make it very easy, honestly lazy, how to get ready for dungeons and eventually Karazhan. As you probably could imagine, this is going to be a longer video, but you can skip to the end if you want to look at the map that I choose, the dungeon map I choose to run in order, with doing attunements and just getting those big pieces that I think are more crucial out of the way first. First thing would be to hit level 70. Of course, I try to push level 70 before I go to Netherstorm. That way I can maximize the amount of gold I make in Netherstorm. One thing to keep in mind is people are bringing a lot of gold into TBC Classic, so this might not be as big of thing, but I'm a fresh server brain player, so I always try to min-max the amount of gold I make, and honestly, more gold's never going to hurt you. Alright, the first thing we're going to go over is gear, and starting from head to toe, we're going to start with the helm. And the first two things we're going to be looking at today are the reinforced helm and the Myrmidon's headdress. The green on the screen on the bottom left is something that you are going to obtain in Netherstorm. Alright, so one thing I've gone over is you're going to want to do every quest in Netherstorm, which if I didn't recently say, just do it. You're going to make a lot of gold. You're going to want a lot of the things in here are just going to be the assumption you run Netherstorm. Grab a few groups of guys and go ahead and knock it out in a few hours. The helm is the first one you'll be wearing, and the Myrmidon's headdress would be one of the dungeon upgrades you're going to get from a quest. And again, just kind of recap on these. I'll try to be as quickly as I can. The first one is a very simple quest. You're going to get a green helm with some defense rating. Statistically, on a lot of the greens you're looking for from Netherstorm are of green quality. Just have some defense rating, maybe some spell power, and then you'll eventually work up into dungeon quest upgrades, and then dungeon drops off specific bosses. Alright, so these next two items are the two items I'm usually going to be wearing, usually going into Karazhan. One is the Fellsteel Helm, if you have access to farming it. The other one is the Helm of the Righteous off Pathalion the Calculator, which is the final boss in Mechanar. The assumption here is I would probably go with Helm of the Righteous because I'm probably going to want spell power as I begin to farm normals and just big AoE pulls. You're going to want the threat. The intellect on it is actually really nice as well. Going sucks, and if you're not taking enough damage, then you're going to want a little bigger of a mana pool. I don't ever really prioritize intellect in general, but it is nice to have it, and you will feel it as you get comfortable with a Prot Paladin. Alright, and the next thing we're going to be talking about is the necklace. Of course, you got a few options here. The first thing you're going to want to do is you'd probably get the green with Down with Daedalus. And then your next two are, one is also a Netherstorm quest, shutting down Manaforge Era. And the other one is a dungeon quest, Brother Against Brother in Sethic Halls. Across the board here, I don't really care between the top two options. They're both really good. I usually go Raven Guard just for a little extra stamina, but depending on what we're running into, block value is also very strong. I'm going to be running Sethic Halls regardless to get my Libram, so I usually just knock that one out. I have them both, just depending on the situation. Usually I'm trying to get defense rating at this point, so I usually go with whatever has more defense rating than I would anything else at this point in time. All right, moving down to shoulders. We don't have a lot of options here, but the first one you're going to come across in Netherstorm is just this green pair of shoulders. Kalen's Spalders. This is only if you're Aldor. Prior to these shoulders, you might have the Hellfire Peninsula blue ones, which are totally fine, but these are usually the first ones I'm going to pick up if I am Aldor. All right, and these next two pieces are the one in the top right is usually the first one I get, which is the Black Morass Quest. And then the Shoulder Pads of the Righteous are the ones I'm going to be looking to finish off, which are in Botanica off Laj, which is the plant boss or second to last boss in Botanica. Both are fine, but again, I really want defense rating on top of also wanting that spell power. They both have 2 gem sockets, which pure stamina gems in those. But again, those are where I want to be after my shoulder slot has been fit. All right, now we're getting into cloaks, and there's really 3 options here that we're going to be looking to pick up. The one in the bottom left is the Archelos, the Guardian Quest. If you're going red at any point, this is the only tricky one, is this cloak also shares the same quest reward as the on-use attack power trinket. But if you're strictly tanking, go ahead and pick up the Cloak of the Valiant Defender. Another option is the Tailoring BOE one. Good defense rating, good amount of stamina. So, which that cloak's really good. Best in slot though, you're looking to pick up the Devil Shark Cloak off Warlord Calathresh. Just pound for pound, the best cloak you can get prior to the epic one out of Tempest Keep off of Lar. That cloak will be your bread and butter for tanking. The only change I would ever make here is maybe pick up a spell power cloak. There's some in Karazhan. There's a craftable one as well, or a BOE, excuse me. But that would be the only difference here that I would make to cloaks. But for tanking, Devil Shark Cloak is the way to go here. Alright, now we're hopping into the chest slot piece. And the first piece we're going to be looking at is the Scavenger's Breastplate. Just good defense rating, high stam. It's a Fel Reaver, but with a heart quest in Netherstorm. Good first option. And now we're looking at our 2 other best in slot options here. The Breastplate of the Righteous has 3 sockets, so I usually lean this. And again, it's because I'm going to want that spell power, defense rating, a bunch of stam. The Jade Skull Breastplate is also really good, has high block rating, which would be really nice for early heroics. So I may or may not swap that piece on for early heroics. As my gear continues to get better, I would go back to the Breastplate of the Righteous. Now we're going to be taking a look at bracers and the 3 options we have for the bracers. First one will also be a quest in Netherstorm. When the cows come home, you escort the cow. These are really, really, really good green bracers. And I use these for threat in normals, or I wait until I get the Soul Devices Shatari Rot bracers. They're really good. They have the higher defense rating. They've got a socket as well. If you have the gold or the means to farm the Green Fortress bracers, those are very, very strong as well, and best for running heroics. All right, now we'll be taking a look at gloves, and our few options that we have here are as follows. The first one is the Spiritualist Gauntlets. A Fate Worse Than Death is the quest in Netherstorm. The one I lean towards out of the top 2 here are the craftable Fell Steel gloves. Just all around better. The Righteous gloves are really not that good. But again, if I'm going for a threat or a spell power set, or if I'm farming, then I do go Gloves of the Righteous. All right, now we will take a look at belts, as there's really only two options here. They're both quests. The first one is Arconis the Insatiable, which drops Starcaller's plated belt. Very solid green. Uh, I use this green right up until when I use the next one, How to Break into the Arcatraz, which is the Arcatraz key quest. You're going to be doing both these quests regardless. Uh, the blue belt here at the top right is just an insane belt up until either Heroic Slave Pens or Morose's belt out of Karazhan. All right, we'll hop into legs as we wind down to our last few we have to go over here. But the Sigil of Crassus gives us the Kiranvar legs, which are very solid green. Again, these are leaning towards spell power, whereas Destroy Nibirius has the blue, just defense rating, parry, pure avoidance stat legs. And then we'll hop into, again, another crafting, blacksmithing BOE, fell steel legs, a very good option. But the one legs like we are going to want here are the ones out of Caverns of Time, which we'll be farming until we're revered. The Time Warden's legs, insane amount of stamina, 3 sockets, defense, dodge. I don't even link the legs of the Righteous because they're just terrible. I don't even want them for the spell power. But push come shove, if that's the only thing you have because you haven't farmed Revered, which you would still want to do for a weapon upgrade anyways, go ahead and I guess pick up the legs of the Righteous. And moving on to boots with the fur, which is an inside joke. If you've ever watched me gear up a Prot Paladin, you know what I'm going to be talking about here shortly. Information gathering is going to get you the Bloodguard's Greaves. Very high stamina, defense rating boots, good start. And then Mana Tombs has a quest for the Flesh Beast boots, which are honestly pre-raid, best in slot, I'm pretty sure. It's that or the Heroic Mana Tomb ones. But these blue boots are really good. Push come shove, though, if you have no luck with other boots, you just haven't ran it, or if you have some gold, go ahead and pick up the heavy cleft-hide boots. They're craftable. They have defense rating. Stamina's really good. Armor's lower than plate, of course, but they still have 2 sockets, and they will work in the meantime for what you got. All right, moving on to rings, and we have a few options here. Dealing with the Overmaster gets you the infamous Wind Traders band. High stam defense rating. It's got some hit rating, which, whatever, it isn't crazy good. Opening the Dark Portal gets you your other tank ring. You might have some other just crappy rings from like Nagrand or something, and that's totally fine. But as you gear up for Prot, you're going to want to complete those 2 quests. You're going to be in Steam Vaults a lot, so if you can go ahead and pick up the Silver Hand ring, they are not unique. You can even wear 2 of them. They have Intellect on them. The MP5 is nice if you have enough of it. It's kind of just like a little quality of life, but it's nothing you should ever be stacking. It's just nice to have some. Like a lot of your Righteous set has Intellect, some MP5. It's just, again, it's nice to have when you're farming normals. All right, moving on into trinkets. We have 2 trinkets that are from quest and 2 trinkets that are from bosses. First trinket you're going to come across is in Hellfire Peninsula. You'll see a million people spamming for Cruel's Intentions. Not a lot of the quests on here are from Hellfire Peninsula, but I'm going to go over the few that are. Pick up this defense rating trinket. Even if your leveling is Ret, stop and grab the defense rating trinket. You're going to need it. The other one is from Dimensius, the All-Devouring. Again, you'll see a lot of people doing this. Debiri's is a very, very strong trinket, and it is really good in early, harder dungeons and heroics as well. Alright, the next 2 trinkets are the Adamantite Figurine, which is off the second boss in Shadow Labs. You'll end up doing a lot of 2 boss farm, well, assuming is what we normally do, but if we're dealing with an instance cap, you'll be farming Shadow Labs. Blackheart the Insider drops this. Defense rating, on-use armor trinket. Very, very good trinket. I don't think I ever get rid of this. I always keep it in my bank. And then the other one is the infamous Figurine of the Colossus, which drops off Warcheat, Kargath, and Shattered Halls, which is the last boss. This unlocks unlimited farming potential for the Paladin, and Just as an all-around, it's the GOAT. It's the best trinket in the game, to be honest. It's overpowered as hell. Now we're moving into main hands here. Weapons for spell power. Keepers of the Time Revered is you're going to be your go-to. It's the Continuum Blade. It's why you would farm Revered, because you're going to get those best in slot legs with paired up with this, as well as you get your Helm enchant, your defense rating dodge Helm enchant. At a later patch, you can pick up the Crystal Forged Sword, which technically is the best blue I think you could probably get. It is a strictly prot paladin. It's got block rating, high spell power. So if you are picking this up at a later patch, try to pick up this sword. It's really strong. But for most of you guys playing at launch and earlier in the patches, tier 4, we're going to be getting the Continuum Blade. Either of these weapons, by the way, are very well worth putting 40 spell power on them, even as a starter weapon. All right, now here are your 2 dungeon drop options. Pathaleon the Calculator, who we're farming for our Righteous Helm, also drops a Mana Wrath, which is another one-handed sword. Good spell damage. Stamina is pretty decent. It's a great option if you haven't ran Caverns of Time yet. The other one is Murmur, which is the last boss in Shadow Labs. Drops your highest spell power weapon you're going to get. That is a blue, which is the Great Sword of the Horde Dreams. This is usually a caster weapon because of the spell hit, and it is not a rep reward, so I usually tend to pass this sword to my warlocks or mages that need this. Again, though, if none of them need it, go ahead and pick it up. It's probably the most threat you're going to get out of a weapon. Prior to the Season 1 Gladiator's Mace or Lower City or Thrallmar spell power weapon, this would be technically your best in slot, I guess, for threat. Again, I try to leave this to the casters. I don't think I'd ever take it, even over a pug. You know, I'd only take it if it was going to get D'd. It's a minor upgrade from the Continuum Blade, but it is still technically an upgrade. Next, we're moving on to Librams, which there really is only 2 options, so this will be pretty quick. The first one is in Sethic Halls off the first boss, Darkweaver Sith. This is a very big Libram, especially if you're going to be doing farming. You need to get this Libram. And the other is when you get into Heroics, your first 15 badges you should be spent on the Libram of Repentance for block rating while Shield or Holy Shield is active. All right, and our final thing we're talking about is shields. The first one you'll probably pick up in Hellfire Peninsula. For some reason, I usually always have the Landslide Buckler up until Netherstorm. If you come across the Shield of the Wayward Protector, it's a Wayward Footman, excuse me. It is a really good BOE shield that you could pick up prior to going into dungeons. But as you get into dungeons, the first boss in Shadow Labs is Ambassador Helma, who drops the Platinum Shield. This is the shield I usually run with. If Netherwing's out and you happen to have the 5k gold, you have access to the other shield in the top right. Alley of the Netherwing can get you a really good spell power tanking shield as well. All right, I know this video is already very long, as most of these videos always should be long. Again, I'm going to just recap. The gear I've went over here is the easiest to obtain if you just do all the Netherstorm quests and then do the easy dungeon quest and then just farm dungeon normals. You're going to be in greens. Nobody's going to want to fucking take you to a dungeon because you're in greens, but you want to at least have as much defense rating as possible when you do form your own groups. So I totally understand. It takes time. It takes work. You have to understand how to pull trash. You need to understand how to kite. Once you get comfortable, you're going to be doing huge AoE pulls. You're going to be popping bubble, gathering them all up, letting a mage drop his improved blizzard, and then eventually you're going to start getting things down quicker. If you hit the instance cap at level 70 from running normals, you are doing it right. You are flying through dungeons. So by all means, this is just like generically what my gear path is when I'm playing a paladin. This was never meant to be, this is pre-raid best in slot. I wouldn't, This is just how can I get to farming gold earlier in the game versus later when everybody else is already doing it. And hopefully with enough time here, I'll be able to upload videos of each dungeon on how to fast pull them or the ways I like to pull them. It all just depends on how much time I have here prior to TBC Classic launch, but I'd like to release videos and show the type of AoE pulls I've been talking about for a while. But if you go back and watch some of my old VODs, you'd be able to see them. All right, now we're going to get into the dungeon map part of this. I know this video is getting long here, but this is our final clip. This is just the route I take in order of how I choose to gear up most of the time. Keep in mind, if you're playing with a group, you're going to be having to compromise in this order. But again, do whatever you need to. But this is usually the route I take when I hit 70. All right, so complete all Netherstorm quest is kind of how this whole video would kick off anyways. Immediately start your Karazhan attunement right after. Go to Deadwind Pass, do all the little nitty-gritty stuff, and then it'll have you get the 3 fragments. I actually first head into Sethic Halls. I do 1 full run for the quest, and then I do the first boss farm until I get my Libram to drop. And then I head into Mana Tombs, 1 full clear here. This gets me my quest boots, and then I head off into Shadow Labs, and now I should have the Shadow Labs key from doing Sethic Halls full clear. Run the full Shadow Labs run, which will get you the quest bracers. And then I'm usually doing a 2-boss farm, which is usually how I farm rep regardless. Again, if there's an instance cap, then you're only going to see me doing full Shadow Labs clears, which really isn't much worse. But of course, you want to burn more time rather than eat up all your dungeons. After Shadow Labs, I'm heading into Steam Vaults. I'm going to be in Steam Vaults for quite a while. Usually I'm helping hunters get Beast Lord set, but I have a lot of items in here that I'm going to need to farm. And I'm full run spamming this dungeon until I get all those items. And then I head off into Caverns of Time. I do old Hillsbred farm, and then I spam BM normals until revered. Also usually cycling DPS in to get their trinket out of this dungeon as well. Then I head off to Mechanar. At this point, you need to have your flying mount. I'm doing full clears until I get, whether it's weapon, I definitely want helm out of here. Chest piece off the third boss or second to last boss. Heading over to Botanica after I obtain these. Full clears. Finishing my art key at this point. You need to do full clears of Botanica. If you have your priest or druid friends, they're going to be looking to get the trinket off the last boss. Keep them in mind. As well as hunters need their chest piece off this last boss. And then I'm going to head on over into Arcatraz. I usually only do 1 run of Arcatraz, and then I take off to Black Morass, finish my Kara attunement, and then at that point, I can begin farming my last few items. I head off into Shadowmoon Valley to pick up the short quest to get my Shattered Halls key. You're going to need a group to finish this, as in you need to kill Fell Reaver in Hellfire Peninsula, and you'll need some materials as well. I also, at this point, start my trials in Shadowmoon Valley. This is your T5 attunements for Tempest Keep, which will require heroics in order to get you attuned. I then start my Shattered Halls normal run. So I actually go for my trinket last, just because I want as much gear as possible to make the Shattered Halls normal farms as fast as possible. All right, this should wrap up the 25-minute video, which I know is longer, but again, I hopefully explained things, the thought process. I get a lot of questions just strictly regarding what do I do when I hit 70, and I figured just making more of an in-depth video, just making it very simple. Again, some of these items are not technically pre-raid best in slot, but they're just usually enough to get it done. I always recommend people doing their own theory crafting and figuring out what their true best in slot is. for what they want to do or certain situations. Paladins need a lot of different things for a lot of different scenarios. So this is one that'll get me into heroics, that would allow me to farm, and just kind of pretty much round out my whole character. And pretty much, I'd at this point I could tear down Karazhan pretty easily with this gear. So feel free to leave me comments, questions, anything like that. I'd be happy to answer. Other than that, guys, I appreciate you guys watching, and I look forward to making a few more videos before TBC Classic comes out.